When it comes to your credit score, this is going to be the biggest game changer. If you're like 1 out of every 5 Americans, they have medical collections on their credit report. And with the changes of the Biden administration, this could be gone in its entirety. That is right, guys. There is a proposed rule that is going on the table to remove medical debt from collection accounts, or from Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is going to remove them from the credit report in their entirety. Like I said, 1 out of every 5 Americans do have medical collections on their report, which means it is negatively impacting their score because of a failed medical bill. With that being said, guys, this can lead to a debt spiral. This can lead to not being approved for a house, a car, a loan, a credit card. And if you are approved, chances are you're going to be paying a much higher rate because of the medical collections that are on there. Now, a credit score does determine whether a person has the economic health or wealth to rebuild and repay the loans that they are looking to borrow, which is why the credit score is really the determining factor. Now, one thing to remember, guys, is when you look at the credit bureaus, they are private institutions. It is not a government entity. It is not something that is held, it is for profit. It is something that I don't really agree with when it comes to the credit reports, because it really just gives a snapshot of the history, which I know history oftentimes does not repeat itself, but it does show a snapshot in history, which could again alter the ability to either borrow or not borrow, depending on where that score does come back. The medical debt is the most common #1 debt that we see in collections. Now, medical debt is the #1, that is right, guys, the #1 thing that we see in collections. According to the CFPB, about 58% of all collections that are currently out there are medical collections. And of this, to wipe and put in the complexity of the medical billing system, it is very prone to errors. So they are estimating that almost 80%, up to 80% of medical bills that are reported to the credit bureaus have mistakes and are not billed properly, which is kind of crazy. They even took a in-depth dive into credit reports and noticed that a lot of the bills that either the patient didn't owe, covered by the medical insurance, or a patient had already paid, were still reporting to the patient's credit reports, which again is kind of crazy, because that is going to result again in a much lower credit score, because you're going to have open collection items. Even though they are medical, it is going to still be on that report, and it will be affecting your score. Now, they are really prohibiting consumer reporting companies as Equifax, TransUnion, Experian from including medical debt. That is what they're trying to change, guys. They're saying it could be into 2024 before we see this taking effect, and medical collections debt, even under the $500 threshold, will not be reported at all, or they will go and be essentially tried to be collected a different way. Now, also have to look at the other side of the envelope, guys. With creditors trying to collect for legitimate medical bills, if they cannot report it to the credit reports, what is that going to look like for the collection efforts to really get that money back? Does it mean there's going to be an increase in garnishments? Is there going to be increase in repayments, things of that nature? Now, when you look at a Vantage score, it is a different way that a credit score is actually pulled. The Vantage scores no longer use medical debt or medical collections in the credit scores calculations. Newer FICO score models also put less weight on the medical information. So again, but when it comes to the FICO score, there are a ton of different versions of the FICO score. So again, if you have that medical collection or that medical debt, chances are you could be paying more for your auto loan, more for your home, if you could even get approved. Now, they're thinking that this overall is probably going to be some different iterations. There might be some changes to this rule that they're proposing, and it could look at again sometime next year when this could be changed, or it could be adjusted. Now, it is unfortunate that the CFPB and the White House have not considered hosting the consequences that will result if medical providers are singled out for billing in comparison to other industries. Now, that was Scott Pirro, the CEO of Debt Collection Industry. Again, this is from CNBC, the really news coming out with this. Now, with that being said, does that mean that we're going to see some medical companies that throw the billing errors to get money? Does it mean, where you could see a lot of additional charges coming from one specific person, singling out companies that are just making billing errors to make billing errors to collect the medical information and collect the additional costs? That is going to be interesting to see. as they continue to fight kind of the low cost and hardworking Americans from addressing the medical debt that they have, the student loan debt they have, the consumer debt that they've accumulated. It is really overtaking people in their entirety, not only in the fact that it is ruining their credit, it is removing all of their ability to buy. Again, when it comes to a house, when it comes to a car, when it comes to, anything really, a majority of places that I know do pull credit reports and rely on that scoring model to give you the rate that you've kind of earned when it comes to that credit report. But again, that could definitely all change if we're removing the medical bills out of there, making a big difference. So guys, that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about removing those medical bills out of there. And if you like the content that I'm providing, go ahead and click subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.